Welcome to this Unreal Engine 4 and Unreal Engine 5 multiplayer tutorial. Today we're going to be delving a little bit into the basics of multiplayer. And this works the same for Unreal Engine 4 as it does for Unreal Engine 5. There is a slight difference in the visuals, and since that might change even further before Unreal Engine 5 is production ready, I have chosen to do this in Unreal Engine 4 so that we can have a consistent view of what it looks like, at least with the version that are out right now. Anyway, let's jump straight into it and get started with multiplayer. So, to do multiplayer in Unreal Engine, you need to understand a few basics. There is a client-server structure to multiplayer, which means that you have a server, which is the one that should be dictating how the game is played and done and handling all the rules. And then you have clients which connect to the server and communicates with it to make sure that it's allowed to do the things that it is trying to do and that it has the valid data from the server. So there are two different types of server client architecture. There is what's called a listen server. A listen server, if we go and demonstrate it here, it's going to be like this. In the play up here in the play button, this is a third-person template, a basic third-person template. We have done nothing special with it. And the button that's an arrow down next to the play is a button which allows you to set a few settings in here. Now, normally it says play standalone like so and number of players 1. To create a listen server and to describe what that is, a listen server is when one of the clients is also the server. The distribution of dedicated and listen server is usually related to how advanced the game is, because dedicated servers usually cost a lot of money, although that is changing somewhat because of services provided by different providers. But the easiest way to do a server architecture for an indie game would likely be something like a listen server where one of the peers, one of the clients, is also the server. And to do that in Unreal, at least on a debugging level, what you do is you click this net mode and you choose play as listen server. And then if we change the number to something higher than 1, so let's say 2, and then we click on, also I have chosen to have new editor window here, Pi, as our window option. So when I play Pi, it will open 2 windows, one for each of the players that are simulated in this example. And we can immediately see that in the top here it says that one of them has net mode server and one of them has net mode client. And this is what the listen server is referring to. This client here, which has a character that you can run around and play with, is also acting as the server, while this client over here is only acting as a client and is communicating with that server. So you can see already here that we actually have some server client functionality that's actually already working, and that's because of how Unreal Engine has created their base of replication when it comes to the movement component. Now, the other type, the dedicated server, is when there is a machine that's dedicated solely to being the server in the game, meaning that the participants of the actual game are all going to be clients. You can also simulate this in Unreal Engine, and you do that by choosing net mode and play as client. And if we keep 2 number of players and we play, you can see we still get 2 windows, we still have 2 people that are actually running around and playing. The difference though is that one is client 1 and one is client 2, so all of the people involved in this are going to be clients. And this is easily scalable if you wanted to have something else. You wanted to have like 4 players, then you get 4 windows, so you can try out like lots of different things if that's of interest to you. Anyway, so yeah, that's listen servers and dedicated servers. Now you might be wondering, how is this important? Well, when it comes to multiplayer in Unreal Engine, there's a concept called replication, which is a word that basically means copy. And what that entails is that the server is what's called authoritative, one of those words. It is basically the one that's deciding things, and the clients have to adhere to what the server says. And replication is something that happens from the server to the client. The server tells the client what state something is in. So if you have a door, for example, and that door is opened in the game, then the server will tell the client that this door is opened. The client never tell the server that this door is opened. The communication comes from the server down to the client about what is true in the world. The reason why you have the server doing the dictating like this is to reduce the amount of cheating, because you want to have the server doing the validations and as much logic as possible that relates to things that will actually affect gameplay, so that you can make sure that the cheating or the possibility of cheating is as low as possible. Of course, you can never entirely eliminate cheating, so it's like impossible to guard against it completely, but you should always strive to make it as difficult as possible. Now, back to replication. So, what can you use it for? Well, it can be something like the health of a character. It can be something else like objects in the world. And not all of the time is it important to do replication for all things. And you need to assess which times it is important and which it is not. For example, if you have something like a character's health is dipping down to half, that is something that's important to tell all the other clients that this has happened, because health is a critical part of gameplay generally. But when it comes to something like, let's say, a person is shooting with a rifle and you're spawning a particle effect for that, that particle effect is not something you want to communicate in the same way from the server telling the clients that they should have a particle effect like or distributing it like that. Generally, you're keeping things like sounds, particle effects, everything like that doesn't affect other players logic-wise. You try to keep on a client side. Now, this might all be feeling a little bit overwhelming and like puzzling about what should be done where, but I'm sure it will become more clear as this series goes along. I will try to make multiple parts about this because it's a very big subject and it is kind of complicated and problematic. Also, I would like to emphasize that you probably don't want to start making a game that is multiplayer. You probably want to start getting the basics done with single player first. Make sure that you understand that, because adding multiplayer adds another level of complexity and problems to your already existing game logic. Anyway, enough talking. Or not enough talking, but enough about this. Let's go into an actual example. So we're going to demonstrate a little bit about how the communication between the server and the clients is important and how that manifests in the world. And we're going to do that by creating first two blueprint classes to test out with. So we're going to make a first blueprint class of the type actor. We're going to call it BP underscore, let's call it replicate box, like so. And then we're going to make another blueprint and we're going to call and make it an actor as well. And we're going to call this BP normal box, like so. Okay. In addition to that, we want to open up our third person character and we want to have an event to trigger some functionality on. Actually, before we do that, we should have done this also. I want some kind of representation for these boxes, because I tend to want that. So we make a static mesh component over here, and we choose a cube. And then for the other class, we do the exact same thing. They don't even need to look different. The point will come across anyway, like so. Now in our third person character, let's create a event. So we're gonna take the key, press E, because that's what I tend to use because it's handy. Like so. And when we press the key E here, we're gonna have a print string. And we're gonna say hello from this. Like so. And then we're gonna start playing. Now, when we are on the server over here and I press E, now you can see that it says server hello, and you can see that on the other screen it also says server hello. This tells us where the code is executing on a client or on a server. So if we go over to the client version and we press the key, you can see that client 1 is sending the code hello to both windows right now. Now, why is this important? Well, if we, instead of having this print string, we do something like a spawn actor from class. And we choose our BP replicated box, like so. And let's do something like we want to split the transform, and we want to split the transform here location as further. Then we want to get our actor location. The reason why we're doing this is just because we want to spawn this box a little bit above our head. And oops, and then we type in a break, like so. And we'll just funnel in our X value and our Y value, which is our position in the world. And then we have a height value, which we'll just set to, let's say, 500 unreal units, meaning 5 meters up in the air. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, if we go back to our level now and we play, we have our server over here on the left, and we press E. You can see we spawned the box on top of our head there. The problem is, you see on the client on the right that the box doesn't exist. Why is that? Well, we created a box in the world or in the game instance for the server, but we didn't let anybody know that's connected that this is something that should be replicated. It's not something that they are told that they should be aware of. But if we want to do that, we can go into our replicate box, and we click on the BP replicate box top here, open the components. And then we find this little line over here on the replication category. Here we have a replicates checkbox, which says that if true, this actor will replicate to remote machines. By clicking this box, like so, compiling and saving, we're now saying that instances of this class should be replicated to other clients. So if we go back to the map now, and we again go and play with our server, we run in front of this character and we press E, you can see that it has spawned a box that is above the client and above the server. So that's all good. We have basically created something that is affecting both the server and the client, right? Well, sort of. Because if we run with our client over here and we press E on the client, you can see that it has now created a box over the client, but the server does not see this box. Why is that happening? Well, the reason for that is we talked about how replication is something that's told from the server to the client, never the other way around. So even though this box is replicating, it was still created on the client. Remember, when we pressed this event before and we printed, if we actually put this back here, like so, we can see where the code is executing. So when the server goes over here and makes its box appear, you can see that it says server hello. But when we go over here with a client and do the same thing, we can see that it says client hello, which means that we actually created this box on the client side now for this specific client. So if this was a box that we wanted all different clients to be aware of, then this would not work. So how do we solve that? Well, there is something called RPCs, remote procedure calls, which is basically when you are communicating sort of like with events, or pretty much exactly with events, but they have some additional functionality or information on them. The best way to describe this is probably by showing with an example. If we do this, we do a custom event here, like so, and we are going to call this server underscore spawn, like so. And instead of the E key doing the spawning, now we're gonna make the server event here do that. And on the E key, we're gonna send a call to the server spawn event, like so. So right now there's no difference, but this event on it, we can actually change some settings on. We can say that this server event, or this event that we have called server, should have this replicate drop-down changed. So normally an event is not replicated, meaning it won't be copied to the clients. But we have some options here. We have something called multicast, something called run on server, and something called run on owning client. Now, shortly about what these things do. Multicast is when a server wants to communicate something to all connected clients. This event, if called, would, if the server is calling it, connect or send all the information, or let that event happen on all clients. So if we were to do it like this, for example. So if this E key was pressed on the server, then it would send this information to all the clients that this should happen. We will be getting back to this in more detail later on, maybe not in this video, but at some point in the tutorial series. But for now, we're going to be moving on to the next part, which is run on server. What this does is it tells that this event should execute on the server and only on the server. Now, how is that helpful for us? Well, we said that this type of actor should be replicated, and servers send replication information to the client. So that means that if the server runs this event, creates this instance of this actor, then it will also replicate that information to the clients and they will be made aware of it. Before we move on and show that, I will also just shortly mention this one. Run on owning client is just like the description says. It says that if the server is calling is the caller of the event, then this will run on the own client. Now, we won't be delving too much into this right now, but this is something very useful as well in certain circumstances, and we will be going into more depth about it later. But for now, we stick with our server. So, server is going to get this event called, it's going to spawn this box, and it's going to print, and we're going to replicate it. So this should solve our problems here now. So if we go to the server here, we press E, we, just like before, we created a box and it looks good on both the client and the server. And now if we run on the client over here, even though we are on the client and I press E now, you can see that it says server hello, because the code has executed on the server. And that means that it has now been replicated to the clients as well. So it wasn't actually created in this window or in this game instance, it was created on the server and then replicated over to the client. Now let's change this up a little bit. Let's do the following. So let's say we want to spawn the other box. As we change this to the BP underscore, we called it something, I'm not entirely sure, normal box. We call it normal box, like so. And we just split this stuff up, split it up again. And we do the same here. Take these pins over here and do 500. Now, this normal box is not to be replicated. It hasn't been set to that. So we have the exact same scenario that we had in the beginning, where the server can go and create the box and it won't show up anywhere, and the client can go and create the box and it won't show up anywhere, because they're only creating them in their own game instances. But we can achieve the same situation that we achieved over here with the server and the replication. And we do this by doing the following. We first call, actually let's make a new event here, custom events. We call this server, and the reason I call this server, and the reason I think you should also do it, or something similar or such, it's important that you have a naming convention and you're fairly consistent with it, to make sure that it's easy for you to understand why things are happening. If you look on this event, for example, you can see that it executes on server and it's a custom event, and that's fine, but having it in the name makes it easier to quickly identify, and that's why I think you should do it just like I am. So spawn normal box, let's say, we call this. Very descriptive, very long name. And again, we say this should be run on the server, and then we say it should do the spawn actor over there. And from the event over here, we say server normal box, spawn normal box, like so. So this is the situation we had in the end before, but we don't have the replication, which means that when the server goes and does this, it happens on the server, and when the client goes and does this, it happens on the server as well. So the client doesn't get anything. So it has been executed on the server both times. But we spoke earlier about there is an ability to actually communicate from the server to all the clients also. And the way to do that is to use the other event that we had, which was called, or not the event was called, but we call this one multi, for multicast, and spawn normal box, like so. And now you can see that we're calling the server and it's spawning a normal box, and we have a spawn actor being called from both of these events. What we want to do is, let's see if I can make this prettier and easier to understand. Let's do it like so. I think that'll be good enough. So we have a spawn box here now that's being called on the multicast here, but it isn't a multicast yet, so we'll start with making it a multicast. So we do that by finding the replicate dropdown and choosing multicast. In addition to that, we want to have these coordinates here, like so, and 500. And then we want to actually not call the spawn actor on the server anymore. We want to do it like so, that we call the multicast here. Let's see, did I type that wrong? Multi-spawn normal box. Okay, so now what we're doing is, let's see if we can group this so we can make sense of this. Pressing the E key will call the server spawn normal box. That in turn will call the multicast for spawn normal box, and the normal box will then spawn these boxes. To demonstrate what will happen is, we go over here, we have a server, it presses E, you can see it appears on both the server and the client. We go over to the client, we press E, and we have it appear on both. So what has happened is that let's go back here and I can talk. We press this key. We call on the server side to say you want to spawn a normal box, but we don't have any logic in that anymore. But we instead here say that if we are the server, which is what this multicast needs, it needs to be called from the server, then this should be communicated to all the different clients. So all the connected clients, if we were to add more clients here, let's see if we can arrange this in some kind of manner so they can maybe all see what is going to happen here, like so. Yeah, so we have this specific client here. Well, actually no, we're on the server, but we're pressing our key here. You can see it appears for everyone. And if we change to a different client now, we can go over here and we can press, and you can see it appears for everyone. So all the clients that are connected to the server are getting this event sent to them saying, we should be spawning a box at this specific location. So now we have achieved, with this a little bit more roundabout way, the exact same thing that happened over here. Now, what's the difference? Why would you not want to do this all the time? Well, it's not that easy to explain. It's a little bit deep, but as a general rule, you can see it as an RPC is something, meaning this, an event like this, is something that you want to have happen when you need to send information very quickly to a client. And also you have this checkbox here which says reliable. If you want to make sure that a message needs to come out to the client that this has happened, then you want to check reliable. But if it's not super important, then it shouldn't be, because this is more demanding for the bandwidth. And so an RPC is something you want to happen quickly and reliably, and a replicated property or an object, a replication set for them is something that you use for something that is not as important. It will be handled when it has the time, basically. But for most cases, there won't be a huge loss or a huge implication by using replication rather than using RPCs. But it depends a little bit, of course, of how you're building it. Anyway, I hope that this made sense. It is a big subject and we will be going back to this in more depth in the future. But as a start, I hope that this will sort of give you a view of how communication is done between server and clients, and when you start playing around with it yourself, maybe you understand why certain things are happening the way that they are. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you did not like it, leave a dislike. Leave any suggestions or comments you might have down below. Subscribe and share this video if you want to see more like it in the future. That is all for now. Keep on learning. Take care.